Hi Tina Jammers, hi YouTube, how are you doing? So today I did mention that I was going to discuss matters of the mind, mental abuse in forms of sexual behaviour. So, looking, staring at private body parts, using the mind to inflict projection of sexual urges, all this stuff is really got to do with self-love. The reason I wanted to speak on it is because I recently read a post on Facebook about, there was a question. It was a post to say, do you know that, the mind can be used as a way of inflicting sexual abuse? And people were saying, yes, it's true, it's true. I myself have gone through it. I'm still going through it, and that's kind of why I did Teal. I felt that many people might be going through, and there was a surge, there was an uprise of mental health issues going on, and I used to think, is it that people have gone through things in their childhood and they're only realising, as adults, you go through life as a child, you don't really care, you're not really present because you're following, your parents or your teachers or whomever, and then when it comes down to facing the real deal, if you've gone to college or uni, if you've stayed out late, you've had to make sure you've got enough money for a cab, or you have to be a responsible adult and make sure you drive everyone home safe and sound, or situations where you've got a job and you need to pay rent because you're living outside of home. These certain responsibilities, you only think about it when you're in the situation. So getting back to the point of the video, I'd like to discuss a few points in relation to into this, and I just feel like it's about self-awareness, it's about self-reflection. I mean, not everyone goes through this kind of thing, not everyone is the receiver, but it's something to put out there, something for people to know about. And I think with the uprise of people campaigning on change.org, it's a great website, go on there, find out what petitions are there. There's a lot happening in regards to sex and relationships education. I myself are going to be doing some videos on that later on this year, really to reflect on my experiences and share them with you guys, and bring a bit of awareness to certain experiences and how we need to deal with it, and manage our responsibilities in riskful sex, healthy sex, identity issues, all of those kinds of things. For me personally, everything is a learning experience. I don't just like to move on from things. I'm constantly reflecting, and I think that's it's a bad habit too, because you can find yourself overly thinking, and it's not good. So moving on from that, I'd like to just read you a few pointers. So emotional abuse, for those of you that don't know, which is round about the same thing as mental abuse, because it's all got to do with the matters of the mind, is anything that's kind of like name calling, belittling you, making you feel small, making you feel guilty, intimidating you, that kind of thing where you don't feel like you're being taken seriously or respected. The law, we have to put the law into perspective here, because we're all adults, we're grown people, and for those of you that are educating your children, I've got my son, so everything that I kind of educate myself, I want to be able to pass on and practice, because there's no point in learning something and not practicing it. So in practice, you know, we have to take on board what the law states, because certain things like this, you know, like someone looks at you and they're like, you look nice, like you're thinking, oh, thank you. But if someone's like staring at you or goes up to hug you and you feel uncomfortable, what do you do in those situations? You have to step back and think, is this right? Am I feeling okay about this? Do I need to be assertive in the situation for if it happens again? So the Serious Crime Act, which was amended or started in 2015, makes behaviour that is controlling or coercive towards another person in an intimate or family relationship punishable of up to 5 years. So someone that is controlling you by intimidation, bullying, harassing you, looking at you, or making it's about the feeling that you get. And I know when we talk about the mind is made up of, you know, intricate areas. You know, we've got the area for logic, we've got the creative, then we've got the amygdala, you know, fight or flight. We've got all these different intricate things going on in our mind, which, you know, this movement of my hand, it's my mind doing it. It's expressive. Yeah, I'm gonna stop. So in that sense, when I say about feeling, it's difficult, because even right now I'm feeling love. I'm feeling a bit of self-love because I know I'm doing the right thing, and I know I'm saying all of this so that other people know that if they come across anything like this, then they can seek out the information and get the legal help that they need to support them in the journey of moving and knowing who they are. I think when you get caught up in controlling or coercive behaviours, it forces you to become a victim of your own behaviour. So if someone's telling you, oh, you're not doing that right, oh, why do you always eat that kind of thing? You would think, well, this is how I do it. This is what I like. But if it's another person telling you what you don't like because they think it's for your benefit, or they think they're doing you a favour, or it's on the flippant side, they feel they need to be the pusher, they need to be in control of you because they feel that you can't handle certain situations. In these instances, we always need to reflect and look back on who we are, because who we are within, what our heart says, what our spirit says, is also connected to what our mind wants us to do. And I always like to say that the mind is addicted to pleasure. So people who remove themselves from, you know, difficult situations, coping mechanisms such as drugs, alcohol, sex addictions, this is all about escaping a situation or a current situation that they can't face. And the mind is, you know, getting a release from that drug, getting a release from that sex, getting a release from that alcohol. It's keeping them away from what they need to face. So in this sense, I like to think of self-love as knowing that I'm not going to escape this situation. I'm not going to allow this present situation to get me down. It's a circumstance that I've got to deal with, but I'm not going to take myself away, because that means I'm just going to lose myself and I'm going to let that other person win over me. And that's where expectations and boundaries come in. But more to the point, I like to bring focus to this subject. Part 4 states that if A is the perpetrator and B is we'll say victim for now. So A has a serious effect on B if it, part A from part 4, causes B to fear on at least 2 occasions that violence would be used, So someone can be like, if you don't do that, I'm going to do this to you. It doesn't have to necessarily happen, but those words, if they're bringing up emotion, feeling a sense of, I need, fight or flight, like, I'm going to punch this dude, or putting yourself in a position that you don't necessarily need to be in. It's uncalled for. It's not necessary. Why is this person putting this grounds on me? You've got a right to stand your ground and say something. Part 4 of Part B says, if A has a serious effect on B, if it causes B serious alarm, or distress, which is a substantial adverse effect on B's usual day-to-day activities. So basically, it's saying, if, again, that fight or flight, if it's, alarm bells, and I will be speaking about narcissism in the next video. If it raises alarm bells, if it raises that inner child, that fear, that sense of, I'm not safe here, like, this isn't right. Distress, which I've talked about in my suicide video, which we all know, when a person has, suicidal thoughts, it's easy to tell that, they're not themselves, and this is something that, needs to be dealt with. Can be professional, can be family, friend intervention. And obviously when we come to day-to-day activities, it's different for everyone. I'm a working mother, so if I was, brought to a point where I had to, get away from work or a work situation, to come home, then obviously I'm not able to pay my way. I have my child that I'm supporting, and it would just make things really difficult. So I like you to really reflect on these things and write your comments down below. Let's speak about this. Let's bring about open discussions in regards to mental abuse and emotional abuse, because in relationships we don't actually realize the baggage that we're holding. And that's why I'm really pushing for people, in a good way of course, to look within themselves, start from within, start from way back when if you have to, from the time you had a crush and he broke your heart. How did that make you feel? To the time where you were in a 4-year relationship at uni. Actually wait, it's 3 years you're at uni. 3-year relationship at uni, you thought you were getting married to this guy, and then you have this big career opportunity, and he tries to control the situation, say, no, I thought we were going to do this. How does that make you feel? What about moving back home and feeling like a child again? All these things. Think about, intimate relationships that you're having or that you've had. I'm not saying go all out and be like, write lists of people that you think have emotionally abused you. It's really about delving within yourself and knowing, am I whole? Am I safe? Is my mind at peace? Because what happens with our mind is our subconscious will replay certain things, and our belief system about ourselves will replace certain things. And if we believe, for example, our crush, that someone that we're just crushing on, someone that just is just there, and we like them, and they reject us, and we take that really deeply and personally, we need to find a safe space within, to rectify that rejection. Because sometimes it's all good to like someone and they don't like you back. There's someone else waiting. In the instance of going to uni and not being able to fulfill the good girlfriend kind of rule book, it's not the end of the world. You can go your separate ways, as God intends. We've all have a plan in life, and if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like Beyonce's song, best thing I never had, you know? Sometimes we need to grow up a little bit, and I know I definitely need to take that on board. But I hope you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe, check out the Tila Jams website. It's www.tilasjam.com, .tmail.com, and yeah, just conversate.